Welcome to the Better Athletes Podcast, where we dive into the mindset, methods, and moments that shape today's athletes. I'm your host, Jordan Bledsoe. On today's episode, I get to sit down with one of my best friends in the world, John Skelton, who's a Hall of Fame quarterback at Fordham University, 5th-round draft pick of the Arizona Cardinals, spent some time with the Bengals, the 49ers, the Titans before he hung up the pads. He was also my roommate at Fordham over there on Hoffman Street. He was a groomsman in my wedding, and to my boys, he is Jonah's dad. So on a podcast that has really taken shape as an opportunity for people who have experienced the process to give some perspective to parents, players, and coaches who maybe haven't. John has about the most extensive experience in what it takes to make it to the highest level, what things matter, what things don't. And he now has the opportunity, living out in Tempe, Arizona, to coach his son and give those experiences and that perspective to his son and his friends. So enjoy the episode. This episode of the Better Athletes Podcast is brought to you by Velocity Sports Performance. At Velocity, athletes train smarter, move faster, and build strength that lasts. Whether you're chasing a championship or just want to dominate your next season, Velocity's proven programs give you the edge. Velocity Sports Performance. Faster, stronger, better. Use code BetterAthletesPod for an exclusive discount at WeMakeBetterAthletes.com. All right, John Skelton, thanks for coming on the Better Athletes Podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks, Jordan.
This one is far and away going to be my favorite one because you and I have had these conversations for, what did we say in the group chat the other day, like 18 years?
Yeah, 18 plus years. And it was almost from day one graduation, you went into what you're doing. And it's been great to see your rise and everything you've done with the gyms and the stuff you're doing there outside of New York.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on. And I just can't believe that we met when we were 18 and it's been 18 years since, and this group has kind of come together. I gave everybody a little bit of an intro on who you are, but why don't you tell everybody kind of your path, where you're from and everything that you're about as an athlete and now as a parent and a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. So born and raised in El Paso, Texas, which everyone goes, oh, Texas football, Friday Night Lights. Like, El Paso's a little different. It's not exactly like East Texas or the Dallas areas where football is king. It's still big time in El Paso. And as I was kind of getting towards the end of my senior year, I'm thinking to myself, oh, I'm going to play at, University of, Texas Tech or SMU or TCU, one of those schools. And when it came down to it, I just never got a scholarship offer. Everyone said, hey, we'd love for you to be a preferred walk-on. We'd love for you to come and compete for a starting spot and this and that. And an uncle of mine who played football at Columbia University said, hey, kid, if you're not going to play big-time college football in Texas, let's go check out educational options. So he flew my dad and I. We went up to the Northeast, first stopped at Columbia University, his alma mater. And he goes, this is the guy, not the football coach, but he was in admissions. That's the word I was looking for. He was in admissions. And he looks at my SAT scores. He looks at my grades and he goes, I don't know, kid. I don't know if we can fudge the numbers that much. And I was like, oh, well, never really wanted to go to Columbia anyway. So we went up the road. We went to the Bronx. We visited Fordham University, which just happened to have a recruiting weekend. So there was a bunch of other kids there. And we just showed up. We dropped film off. We were there about an hour and a half. And then we got up the road and we were going to Holy Cross. And I get a phone call from Coach Tom Masella, who had just got the head coaching job probably like 4 or 5 months prior. They were behind in recruiting and they were trying to catch up, and said he wanted me to turn around and come back. And, about a week later, I was back on a plane with my mom for an official visit to Fordham, and ended up playing there. Got to meet you, a lot of my lifelong friends there at Fordham, guys from the Northeast, guys from the Midwest, guys from the South. And I think that's the beauty of college football is you just get guys from all over the country, all pulling in the same direction. I know that's a lot of what you've talked on the past about regarding your podcast and how you make these lifelong friends. You find your people, you find guys that are all pulling for the same thing. And that's that teamwork, that camaraderie aspect of what you coach and your kids and your students and what I'm coaching now with my son.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable to me, and to hear it kind of episode after episode and throughout my career, everybody's paths are starkly different than what kids think it's going to be like. like I've heard that story of your trip to Fordham and Coach Massell and all those things so many times over, but it's impossible to articulate a kid that sits in this office and says like, it's not going to be as straightforward as you play football in Texas, you're going to a big school, and then you end up as an NFL draft pick and you have your career. And what did you envision it being like when you were, whether it be a youth player or a high school player, on what your path would be like?
Yeah, well, for me, Jordan, I know you talk about this all the time. Is I grew up, baseball was my passion, and my dad, since I was 3 years old, had me hitting off a tee, had me catching balls, throwing balls, and baseball was my passion. I loved playing baseball, and then I got to about 8 or 9, and I played football. And because I could throw a baseball, I could throw a football, so they put me at quarterback. But at that age, no one's really throwing the ball. You're just teaching blocking and tackling. It's really the basic skills. And then a little later, I started playing basketball too. And my whole life, I was a good athlete. I don't think until I got to high school was I the best athlete on my field. I mean, I played with kids that were great pitchers, and I pitched, but I wasn't very good at it. But I could throw from third base to first base is usually what I played, third base, first base. I grew up in El Paso, and I was 6'5", playing on the basketball team, and naturally, I'm just the tallest guy on the court. We didn't have El Paso's not known for its height and guys playing basketball. So being 6'4", 6'5", I was the tallest guy on the court. So I naturally played center. But my whole life I was thinking like, I just want to get a scholarship. I want to go play football somewhere. I really wanted to play baseball, but my sophomore year, I started getting invites to summer camps at, Texas Tech, come out to Lubbock for our junior day, stuff like that. So when I got those first letters, I'm thinking like, this is it. I made it. I'm the guy. They're reaching out to me. They're recruiting me. Coaches are calling me when it was legal. It's all those different rules back 20 years ago. I'm thinking like, oh, this is great. I'm going to end up playing Division I football somewhere. Well, little did I know they're sending those same letters to 250 kids, hoping that 150 respond and 50 show up and 25 actually come in and are getting offered scholarships or something like that. And those numbers had never really, no one ever sat down and said, hey, this is what the
Yeah.
reality of it is.
And that class, if I remember correctly, included like Sam Bradford and Matt Stafford, right?
Yeah, I mean, Texas was stacked. Colt McCoy was coming out that year. All these guys that ended up playing at the Texases and the Oklahomas and the Georgias. Texas itself is just, from when I was in high school, even before to now, it's just producing quarterbacks left and right. So I kind of going into my senior year, no one offered a scholarship. Kind of those phone calls stopped coming as frequently. People already started committing, and I'm just out there thinking like, where did all those people that were showing me the love back then gone? And I'm in high school. I'm playing basketball. I'm playing baseball. I'm playing football. We're already getting into towards the end of the basketball season, and now I'm starting to think, well, maybe I take a junior college offer to play baseball and I go to El Paso Community College or something like that. And luckily, my uncle, who has the means and the wherewithal to say, hey, you're not playing at any of these schools in Texas. They don't want you as much as you think you do. Let's go get a good education. Let's go to the Northeast. He had former coaches that were now head coaches. We ended up going all the way to New Hampshire, where Chip Kelly was the offensive coordinator, and everything he's accomplished since then. But the fact that I had someone advocating for me, someone like my uncle who was able to help, my parents kind of understand the ropes and all that. In the end, it all worked out. I'd never heard of Fordham before. I'd never been to the Bronx before. I go on that official visit. My mom's like, what is going on here? The most beautiful campus, I think, that I've ever visited is Fordham University. But right outside those walls, as you can attest, Jordan, it's a little different.
Yeah. Other than our little, Belmont to Hoffman
Yeah.
rectangle there, the protected corner. Yeah, it's not UT Austin, that's for sure.
No, no, it's definitely different. But we made our little nook there. We made it fun getting those breakfast sandwiches in the morning, walking to 5 a.m. Summer work or winter workouts when it was freezing cold outside. I always tell kids too, is like you want to play college football, you want to play Division I, it's a sacrifice, man. And there's things that you got to give up. But you and I and everyone we went to school with and played football with, they understood those sacrifices and they understood what it took to be a Division I athlete.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of those things that when kids do sit down in this office and kind of talk about what that experience is like and whether they want to go to a Division III school or a Division II school or Division I school, I try to articulate to them that it doesn't really matter which one you land at, it's still going to be a massive commitment. You have a full-time job on top of the full-time job that is being a student. And it's really just about finding the spot where you can play.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That I mean, I coached high school football out here for 2 years. I was helping with the freshman offense at Corona del Sol, and at the time, the kid who was a senior quarterback, I got to know his dad pretty well, and his dad was an offensive lineman at Arizona State University. His mom was a cheerleader at the University of Miami. So his whole world was, I want to play Division I football. I want to go to ASU and be the starting quarterback at ASU. Well, the reality of it is, Connor, you're about 25 pounds underweight. You throw the ball great, but you got to work on your touch. You're not all the way there. And he was getting recruited by Western New Mexico and Eastern New Mexico and all these schools kind of in the West, Southwest out here. And I said, Connor, go where you're wanted and go where you're going to get a chance to play. And he ended up going to Western New Mexico. He is in his second year right now. And his first year, he played towards the end of the year when they had some injuries and the season wasn't going great. This year, he took the starting role and he's the leading passer in Division II. And I'm like, Connor, that's all you wanted, right? It was an opportunity. You're playing. Who knows what next year, the year after, holds for you? And he's a realist. He's like, look, I'm getting my school paid for. I'm enjoying. There's, I think, 3 other kids that he grew up with that are at that school currently, and it's just a perfect fit for him. His parents go to every game. It's about a 4.5 hour drive. They go to all those games. And I'm like, Connor, you're living it, man. Like you're not at the ASU, you're not playing on ESPN, but you're playing football at a level where 98% of high school football players aren't playing.
Yeah, he's still part of that 2%.
Yeah,
Talk about that pyramid of, everybody plays sports when they're 5. And, if you get to play in college at all, 98% of them are not playing sports anymore.
yeah. Now that funnel shrinks real quick.
It does. And finding that spot that's right for you where you can have a great experience is the important part. I have a kid up at, give a shout out to Travis Carlucci. He's a kid from here at Lakeland High School. He went down to, I want to say it was like Eastern Tennessee. Like he really, he's a kid, he's a little bit undersized, ran a 4.5. So he had one of the tools. And he's like, no, I run a 4.5, like I can play Division I football. And he went down to Eastern Tennessee and he learned quick that I'm just not going to see the field here.
Yeah.
And he transferred up to Division III Cortland State, which is in our SUNY system here. They actually won the national championship for Division III last year. But one of our guys went up to his game this weekend. He was up at Hartwick, playing out of his mind. He's exactly where he needs to be now, having a great experience. But it took going and seeing what it was like at that Division I level and realizing, like, I don't like riding the bench playing football. I've played my whole life. I want to see the field, and finding that right spot for him. And he's going to get a great degree in the SUNY system. He's going to be incredibly successful coming out of there and having a great college experience under his belt.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, same thing for this kid I was talking about earlier, Connor. He goes, I think he's got 2 uncles that are wilderness firefighters. He's in their fire program. And I go, dude, you're getting your college paid for. You're playing football. You already know what you're going to do post football, post college. Like, if you go on to play beyond college, then everything else is sugar on top, man. Like, you kind of have that plan mapped out. It's not exactly how it was when you sat down your freshman, sophomore year in high school and drew it up, but you're still getting to that endpoint.
Yeah, I love those stories because, like, not everybody has that mentor. Like you talked about your uncle, kind of pulling you aside and setting you in the right direction. I had many coaches throughout my young career that were able to give me the perspective that I didn't have. But that's become the premise of this podcast.
No, I was just going to say, and I think a lot of times it's coaches that fill that void. Not everyone's fortunate to have parents that kind of understand what the sports landscape looks like, or understand what it takes the commitment it takes to get to college and play beyond college, or even play at a high level in high school. Some kids just want to roll out of bed and have fun with their friends. Like, that's great. There's a place for that. But if your ambitions are higher than that, it's like someone needs to sit down and tell you that. And a lot of times it's a coach. It's someone that, like, you've seen these kids come in when they're probably 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, not knowing how to hold a lacrosse stick. And all of a sudden you see them in college and you see their development, and their parents probably don't even know what lacrosse is, right? I see that with kids that are playing football with me right now.
Yeah, 100%. And, sitting down even this summer with some kids that I've had, like you said, since they were 5, 6, 7 years old, that are now approaching their recruiting summer. Lacrosse is a little bit different than football was for us. Their recruiting summer is the summer before their junior year. So they have 2 full
Oh wow.
years. Yeah, it's wild. 2 full years of high school following their commitment date. It's
Yeah.
a little bit bonkers, right? But you go and you're playing youth sports and you join on with a club team because you're pretty good, and then suddenly, you're in your 8th grade year, and which club you're on, which tournaments they're going to, which showcases they're going to be at suddenly matters. And if you don't have somebody to kind of help you steer that ship, you could be the most talented kid around, kind of standing on the outside of the block. So I really I love those stories of somebody giving kids those insights, and I love having those conversations with kids and trying to give parents and kids perspectives that they otherwise couldn't have because they're just not in that world enough. You only know what you know.
Yeah, I know exactly right.
So you're living out in Arizona now. Your son is
He's 11.
11.
About the
11
size
now.
of a 13-year-old though. He's a big boy.
Yeah. Yes, he is. What sports is he playing right now?
So we just wrapped up basketball. So I've been fortunate enough. He goes to a school about a mile away from me, but probably less than a mile. And we've had a group of parents. There's probably about 8 of us that have kids either my son's age or a year younger. And we go from baseball to flag football to basketball to some kids do fall baseball or do maybe another league of flag football and stuff like that. So he just wrapped up his basketball season, which I like them because they're short, they're quick. The kids, they're getting what they want out of it. They're enjoying playing with their friends. They're getting better. They're well coached. So we just finished that basketball season. We started last week flag football. So to put it in perspective, he's 11 years old. He's 5'4", 162 pounds. And flag football is not his sport. Flag football is for the fast, quick kids. But I put him at center. He snaps the ball. He runs his little curl route or his out route. He finds a place to post up, and he's an automatic 4 or 5 yards every time we need it. And he's learned to embrace that role. He knows that if we don't have a clean snap to the quarterback, the whole play's shot. And he's embraced that role. And I've told him, if you don't want to play tackle football, that's okay. Tackle football is not for everyone. And people are like, oh, he's going to be so great. He's built like a left tackle and this and that. And I'm like, he sure is, but he doesn't want to play. And you can't make a kid play football. You can make a kid play soccer. You can make a kid play basketball. You can't make a kid play tackle football.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And even as you're describing that calendar of, flag football, the basketball, the baseball, I feel like up here in New York, we don't have, or we have too many parents and administrators running youth sports for the now and not enough
Oh yeah.
for their future, which is
Yeah.
really
No.
challenging for me to stomach.
Yeah. And that's not only a Northeast thing, Jordan. That's the same thing out here. I have a kid who I love to death. He's a really good baseball player, loves basketball too, and he's doing fall baseball. They have tournaments probably starting this month, probably in the next week or so. So it's about, I don't know, 12 tournaments a year. Sometimes they're traveling, sometimes they're local. And the kid just wants to play basketball too. And they're like, well, if you miss this tournament, we have another kid waiting that wants to join our club team. And his he's great. His dad's from Mexico. He's like an exchange student out here. He played baseball at North Dakota State or something like that. And he's 10 or he's 11. He's like, he wants to have fun with his friends and get better. Like, you can't tell a kid at 11, you are only a football or you're only a baseball player. And if you want to play at high school, you got to start now. You got to be on this club team. And if you're not on this club team, then the coach in high school won't even look at it. And I'm like, come on, like, kid's an athlete. He'll be fine.
Yeah. I've yet to find someone that comes on here and or even in my life in sports that feels that the system, the way it's going, is the way it should be, right? Or any of
Yeah.
us that went on to play at the next level that look back and be like, yeah, it's because I locked in at 10 years old.
Yeah, no chance. And then I like coaching. The way I coach flag football right now too is our first 20-25 minutes of practice, we're just doing agility. We're doing ladder drill, we're doing hurdles, we're doing side shuffle, stuff like that, where it's great for flag football. They can laterally move to pull flags or run their routes. But okay, now you're going to go play basketball and you're going to have a crossover dribble that's quicker than anyone else because you've been doing all this footwork. You're going to be able to steal a base because now you got those fast twitch muscles that are working and stuff like that. So our basketball coach, I'm the assistant on the basketball team. The other coach does the same thing. He's doing agility drills the first 15 minutes of practice. I'm doing them for flag football. I have other parents that are like, oh, we found this place down the road. It's great. It's $150 for 2 sessions a week, and they're going through. And I was like, send them to me. I'll do them for free. Like, we're doing them anyway. He doesn't have to be on my flag football team. Just send them to me. We'll do all that agility stuff, and he'll be a better athlete for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And around here they do flag up until second grade.
Okay.
And then they cut flag football, and if you're gonna play football, you have to go to tackle.
That's interesting. So that's the exact opposite of out here. Is the Arizona Cardinals have had a big push for flag football as the NFL has, and there's high school boys flag football, high school girls flag football. So all the way through, we have a seventh grader on our flag football team, a girl. She's probably the best flag puller, she's fastest on our team, and she's trying out. She played in our flag football league right now, so she can prepare for tryouts for middle school that are coming up in the next couple of weeks. So
Yeah,
it sounds like it's the opposite of what's going up in the Northeast.
yeah. Sarah's gonna hear this, and she's gonna start one of her crusades, because it drives us up the wall. Because my son, as you know, very similar build to yours. He's not playing tackle football right now, and it drives everyone in our town nuts. But if we had flag football, he 100% would be playing. He plays in the schoolyard every single day.
Yeah.
He wants to go in the backyard and he wants to throw the football around. Come high school, come ninth grade, like I did, he'll probably play tackle football. Just his genetics will, push him in that direction. But the fact that we cut flag football at second grade here, and it's purely based on, right, because we do have the NFL flag league in this area, but they will only do it in the spring because it would cannibalize tackle football in the fall. Because I know for a fact, just like your son and just like mine, don't necessarily want to be putting on that helmet and pads at 8 years old, nor should they, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's gotten a little ridiculous. I've seen 5-year-olds with helmets running around, and I'm like, in what world is that kid getting any better playing tackle football at 5 or 6 years old?
Yeah, it's definitely not what my vision of youth sports. I have kind of that, exactly what you were just describing, that holistic view of like each sport is making the kid better at the next sport, and making them better at interacting with other kids and solving problems and dealing with loss, and dealing with success, and all the different things, and where they pan out later, if they do have some genetic gifts, and they do have the unique work ethic, and they do have the right support system around them that gives kind of steers them in all those right paths. Like, yeah, they may end up at a particular sport around 10th grade, but prior to that, I feel like every one of those sports is just positioning for whatever they grow into.
Yeah.
They'll be successful at. Which obviously you were baseball, basketball, football. I was the same three until I gave up baseball. But to see kids that are traveling the country at 10 years old to play baseball year round, and therefore can't play in the absolutely amazing 3v3 basketball league that KJ and his buddies started this past Saturday, that was the most fun I've ever had in a gym.
Oh, that's awesome. That's
Watching
awesome.
Yeah, and actually, I don't know if you listened to the episode with Jay Mayetta. He runs that town rec league, super creative dude. But they rotate the format, right? So in the winter they have traditional 5v5 rec league basketball, but in the seasons where they get less registrations, they started doing this 3v3 league. And basically, instead of creating teams, they put you in a group. So KJ's in group 2, whatever, right? So group 2 and group 4 showed up on Saturday at their assigned 1 p.m. game time. And the director puts all the kids in a line and says, okay, you're going to that hoop, and you're going to that hoop, and you're going to that hoop. And they created 4 teams based on all the kids that were there. There were refs, right? There were 3-on-3 rules, take it out above the 3-point line, checking the whole deal. and they played an hour and a half. They got 2 games within that hour and a half time period, and the kids were just playing and having fun, and it was loose, and they were learning how to set picks and play good defense and move their
Yeah,
feet,
yeah.
and in 3v3 there's none of that scenario where the two weakest kids on your team kind of never touch the ball and kind of
Yeah,
fade
go
off.
stand in the corner. Yeah, just
Everybody's got a job in 3v3.
that's great. I mean, that concept and him coming up with that, hey, numbers are down, but we're gonna figure out what to do with these kids that are here that want to be here. I think that's a great concept. I mean, in Arizona, when it's 120 in the summer, no one's outside, no one's in the batting cage, no one's fielding ground balls or anything like that. So everyone moves inside. So an idea like that, where the kids still active, they're still moving, they're still getting the fundamentals of sports, I think is a great idea.
Yeah, I think the Olympics does a good job with this, in my understanding, but in terms of trying to create accessibility in sports, right? Because like very few countries have access to it the way we've created in the U.S., right? Certain sports that have a lot of specialization, like lacrosse, for example, right? You have, defensive players with long poles, different equipment, right? You have middies that are accustomed to running 120 yards up and down the field every play. You got attackmen with really good stick skills. It would be impossible to put that version of lacrosse into the Olympics,
Yeah, yeah.
right? No one would be able to compete. It would die. So they created this thing called sixes, which is more like the lacrosse version of 5v5 basketball.
Okay.
So there's no offsides. It's kind of free flowing. When you score, the goalie pulls it out of the net and clears it up the field. Much smaller field, that type of thing. So that will actually be in the 2028 Olympics.
Oh, nice.
And I feel like the fact that flag football is going to be in the 2028 Olympics
Yeah.
has almost given people permission to create more accessible versions of sports.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
if you put tackle football in, a community that doesn't have much money and doesn't have a grant to fund all those helmets,
Yeah.
those kids aren't doing anything at all, or they're, so I love 3v3 basketball. I love the PLL sixes for lacrosse. I love hearing that you guys are playing. You guys play flag football all the way up to high school.
All the way through. I got to tip my hat to the Arizona Cardinals organization. They were one of the leaders when it came to, hey, the NFL wants flag football to be forefront. They the Cardinals pay to televise a high school girls flag football game of the week every week. And it's you see some of these girls compete. I've gone to these camps and I'm like, man, this girl is an athlete. And she's like, yeah, she didn't like basketball, but she's super athletic. Her dad played Division 1 football, was a receiver. And I'm like, yep. And that girl is a Division 1 flag football athlete all day. And the fact that it's in the Olympics and it just keeps growing like crazy, and the accessibility, which you brought up. What do you need? You need flags and a football, right? And draw out a field on some grass area, which we got plenty out here. So that accessibility and the growth of that sport, I think, is going to continue to take off. And if Sarah Bledsoe gets behind it, it's going to be all over the Northeast as well.
You're telling me that's the last thing I need in my house right now is another crusade. Even the player safety element, which I'm sure is where the NFL's incentive to get it going and the Cardinals' incentive to get it going is around that player safety. It's just you're getting all of the tactics, you're getting the team element of football without the inherent physical risk, without the 8-year-olds with a group of dads who are well intentioned but have no idea how to teach 11 kids to do 11 different things, which is
Yeah.
really, that's football. Every person has a very singular job, has to complete it. Those little kids on the line, there's at least 5 of them that are just dinking their heads together every play of every practice.
Oh, absolutely. I'm doing it completely the wrong way, and then they quickly become basketball players because of it.
Right. They either hate it or they're suffering because of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well,
and
it's interesting you said that too about teaching the tactics and stuff. So I've been coaching my son's flag football team for this will be the 4th season, I believe, since they were probably about 9, 8 or 9, and I'm teaching them actual passing concepts. Like, all right, guys, we're gonna run a mesh route, right? The X sets the depth. My Y's coming over the top. You're not looking until you cross the center. It's like you better not like look sooner. You guys are gonna run right into each other. You better not be floating upfield. You got to keep it flat. Quarterback, you're reading 1, 2, 3, right? So I'm teaching him that. We're playing a team the other day, and he goes, "You're blue, you're red," and I'm like, "What is this guy talking about?" Well, sure enough, they have wristbands, and the play is on there, and it's blue. The arrow there is blue, and he's just running an out route, and he's just doing this, and there's no concept. They're not teaching anything. And maybe it's a dad who just volunteered. They didn't have anyone, and he stepped up. So tip my hat to him if that's the case. But I have kids on my team that they want to play tackle football, but mom won't let them, or they're not ready. Physically they're not ready. I was like, you know what? That's fine. Let him keep playing this. He's going to be a receiver or running back type anyways. This is more beneficial for him than 11 kids running to the ball and there's no concept being taught. There's no blocking schemes, anything
Whoever can
like
get to
that.
the edge fastest.
Yeah, yeah. You get the one kid who's faster than anyone and it's just going to give him a toss route every play. And that's where I get excited about coaching, right? We're coaching basketball and I'm teaching a backdoor cut. It's like you can't just stand there. Like your guy's not looking at you. He doesn't even know what's going on. Just backdoor cut him. And sure enough, we get layups that way. We're teaching the game of basketball. We're teaching motion. We're teaching helping defense. And same thing in flag football, we're teaching concepts. Hey, this is a mesh concept. This is a levels concept. On defense, hey, you're a middle linebacker. You got to watch for a crosser, right? Your job is to cover any crosser coming across. And you better tell that nickel out there that if a crosser's coming, he better be ready to step in front and break up a pass. So I'm teaching them all that, which is where I get my satisfaction in teaching these kids the next generation of what's to come.
Yeah, and it's a format that can receive that level of coaching too, right? If you also have to worry about getting hit,
Yeah.
it's a lot harder to learn that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming from New York high school football where I didn't play till ninth grade, but had 4 years of New York high school football. I didn't learn how to play football until I got to Fordham, right?
Yeah.
There wasn't enough other players on the field in New York when I was
Yeah.
playing high school football that could handle it. That we were doing things that were way outside the scope of what somebody at my position should have been doing. And then you get to Fordham, and it's like, wait a second, you just need me to move this guy to this position in this gap, and that's
Yeah.
all I have to do. I don't have to do
Yeah.
anything else.
Yeah. Plug the B gap. That's all you got, right?
Exactly. I talk to parents a lot, and I don't want to sound like people like it blows their mind when I talk about football like this. 'Cause they're like, you were a football guy, like everything you have is because of football. But it's football done right that
Yeah.
I loved. I didn't love the version of football I played in high school. I don't love
Yeah.
the version of football I'm watching my son's friends play because I believe that football is a 90-10 sport. It's 90% similar to basketball. 90% of it's your genetic disposition, and then 10% of it's understanding the game.
Yeah.
And I think in the format of tackle football for youth, I don't think you can learn that 10%. But flag, in my opinion, and from what you're telling me reinforces this, it removes all those external elements that have anything to do with your genetics. You don't have to be the biggest kid, you don't have to be the strongest kid. Maybe you are the biggest and the strongest kid and you can still find your little out route and get your automatic 4 or 5 yards when you need to. But the format of the game presents a way for coaches like yourself to teach that 10% that is necessary to be successful and safe and play the game at the next level.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And then at the high school level out here is 7-on-7's big in the off season. And these kids are going to 7-on-7 tournaments and they're playing. And you watch some of these coaches, they're coaching to win a 7-on-7 tournament, right? It's like we have the fastest. He's the number 4 ranked receiver in the state of Arizona. He's already committed to Oregon, whatever it is, and he's playing against a kid who has just got moved up to varsity, is going to probably play as a junior, and you're just going to send this kid on a deep route, hoping that he runs right past the kid. Well, that's great. You scored a touchdown. You beat the small 3A school from the West Valley, but that kid's not learning anything. And then you see other coaches that are more like, hey, we're going to teach the same concepts we're going to run in the fall on 11-on-11. We're going to run in 7-on-7 in the spring, and we're going to teach these kids how to do these proper route concepts. And I way more appreciate seeing that and you losing a game, 21-14, but your kids got a lot better. and they got better at practice. They got better in the tournament. They got better watching film and all that stuff. And I tell that to my youth players. I was like, look, this kid might be the best player on the team, but my goal is for him to get a little bit better by the end of the season, right? You might be the worst kid on the team. You've never played flag football before, but I'm going to teach you how to work hard. I'm going to teach you how to listen. And by the end of the year, you're going to get a little better. And everyone's goal on this team is to be better 8 weeks, 9 weeks from now when the season's over. And that's always what I'm teaching. And I'm sure that's what you're telling a lot of your kids as well.
Yeah, it takes a lot of confidence to send that message, though, because even around here, it almost seems like youth coaches are on the hot seat the way pro coaches are.
Wow.
You don't have success. The drama that comes from a bad week or a bad showing or that 21-14 loss is, for lack of a better term, it's toxic. But it almost takes somebody like yourself, playing the NFL, or even for me, like just having my business of long-term athletic development, gives me a little bit more leeway, I feel like, with parents to
Yeah.
do it the right way, because they trust that I know the end game.
Yeah. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's that credibility that we have, right? I coach against guys like, dude, what do you do? Oh, I work at Intel. Oh, you an engineer? Yeah, I'm an engineer there. Like, oh, that's awesome, man. It's like, you just, volunteer coach out here. He's like, yeah, my son wanted to play. I'm out here coaching, and I really don't know what I'm doing. And I'm like, oh, I'll help you, dude. I'll show you how to coach, or you can coach along with me. Or then you get the other guy who's just the hard head. He's like, oh, I own a construction company, and my son's gonna be a Division I athlete. And I'm like, dude, I've seen your kid. He's kind of a jerk. Thinks he's better than everyone else, and you keep feeding him, right? You don't have the credibility to walk around talking about how good your kid is. And I'm not taking anything away from him being out there coaching his kid and stuff, but apples to oranges, you and I had different credibility standards, right? Like if I tell a kid that kid's an athlete, he's gonna make it if he puts in the work, does the time. And you say the same thing about a kid, it's just it it resonates with parents differently. And I
Yeah.
think that you're absolutely right. There's coaches that are on the hot seat that probably shouldn't be, but they're doing it the right way. They're coaching the right way. They're getting the kids better. And there's other coaches that are coaching to win championships in that season, and
Right,
no one's getting
exactly.
better.
In 10U football or 10U basketball,
Yeah,
whatever that
yeah,
might be. It's funny. When I don't know if it was when KJ was born or when Chase was born. I was very committed, being in the coaching world professionally. I was very committed to letting someone else coach my kids, and that I really didn't want to be their coach. I wanted to, I coach at work, and when I went to their games, I wanted to be able to watch them. And KJ plays his club lacrosse super competitively, and I do really enjoy sitting on the sideline and watching just him. I don't have to worry about anybody else on the field. But when he was probably 5, right? It was probably like dad pitch baseball, and they didn't have a coach for our team. So the league director kind of brings all the parents in like a horseshoe, and he's like, listen, we don't have enough coaches to run this league, so we're gonna have to shut it down if somebody doesn't step up. And at the
yeah,
time, it was me and my buddy Kevin. Our boys have been really close since like preschool, and we're both of the mindset we're really looking forward to just sitting on the side and watching our kids play baseball. But finally, this guy, he's probably a plumber, with his kid Biff, like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
what, I'll coach the team. And like me and Kevin could not have jumped out of our seats faster to be, no, you sit down, we'll do it. We got
Yeah,
it.
we got
We got it.
it. That's so true. Yeah, that's so true. My son's coming up. He's in 6th grade now, and they have middle school basketball, baseball, flag football, track, and everyone keeps asking, "Oh, are you going to coach him in middle school? Are you gonna?" And I was like, you know what? I've coached him enough. He needs to be coached by someone else at this point. And I go, the only way I will coach him is if no one steps up, or the guy that does step up is a complete idiot and doesn't know what he's doing. I was like, because then I'm really doing all those kids a disservice by not stepping up and doing it. So I told Courtney, my fiance, I was like, I'm looking forward to not coaching, knock on wood, because who knows what the next 3 years of 6th, 7th, and 8th grade are going to hold.
Yeah, totally. And it's funny. It's like the floodgates ever since. And Sarah gives me a hard time about it all the time, but it went from the time they were infants till like 5 years old, where I was like, no, I'm not coaching them. Somebody else will coach them. It'll be great. To now I'm coaching them in basketball. I'm coaching them in baseball. I'm coaching them in lacrosse. They're coming to the gym and I'm coaching them, and I'm on the board for this and I'm on a board for that. And it, but when when I know what I know, it's really hard to not go and help them and all their friends. And it's become like the joy of my life. Like I live for, going out to the rec and whatever,
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
we're playing tonight. But
Absolutely.
all right, so let's shift gears a little bit. I know, everybody's going to want to hear kind of about your path and how you got from Fordham to the NFL. So when did things kind of take that turn for you in college? I was there with you, but it was one of those things that, when we were all grinding together and just working through our seasons, we didn't, nothing seemed different until I think there was like a Wall Street Journal picture of your head resting on the
that was that was New York Magazine, J-Bone.
football.
Thank you.
My
Um, yeah, I mean, we I think we were fortunate enough, me as a sophomore and you as a freshman, to have a lot of success that year and win a Patriot League championship, go to the playoffs, take on a good UMass team in UMass, and perform well for Fordham and for the Patriot League.
that UMass team was. Now that you say that,
Stacked. That team was stacked. And
quarterbacks is now the Jaguars coach, right? They had James
yeah,
Iguodala at safety.
yeah, Victor Cruz was on that team, and he was like the third best receiver at the time. They had like three other guys.
Vlad Dukas at guard. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was an amazing team.
that was a stacked team, and it was the Saturday after Thanksgiving was when we played that game, and it had snowed just a couple days before or something, and I think we were down maybe 21 or 14, and we had a fake punt. Nick Majera took it around the corner, gave us a boost. We scored on that possession, and we were right there till the end, and that was such a fun season and everything that we accomplished there. And it was after that season where scouts started coming around. So it was the local Giants and Jets scouts at first, how they make all their rounds. Shout out to Ryan Darcy, who went down that path for a little bit. He's currently coaching his kids in Warwick.
Yep.
But it was right around that time when they're like, hey, you have a shot at this. Keep getting better. Keep doing what you're supposed to do. And it was not that I wasn't as focused on it prior, but it was hearing that from scouts say, hey, you got a shot. Just keep working. It really does kind of flip a switch in your mind. All of a sudden, those off-season workouts seem less like chores, or waking up in the cold of winter to get to an off-season workout, all that stuff. And the weight room, you kind of get hyper-focused. And then my junior and senior year, we didn't have the same success we did as a sophomore, and that was always disappointing, to not win another Patriot League title, to not get back to the playoffs, and that was always a hard one to swallow. But towards the end of my senior year, everyone's talking like, hey, you might get invited to the East-West Shrine game, you might get a combine invite, all that good stuff. And Fordham, hadn't had a guy drafted since 1965, and all of a sudden I'm thrust into the spotlight. And luckily, all my friends around me, all my family, to keep me grounded, and guys like you ragging on me when I do something stupid, whether I'm going to the NFL or not, I still get picked on by my buddies and stuff. But it was a great ride. I got to play in that East-West Shrine game in Orlando. You and all the boys went out there for that game and got to.
We can't talk about the East-West Shrine game without mentioning the punishment that we all had for missing a workout. I don't know if you know this because you were
I
in the
did,
game.
yeah.
We missed our flight back from Orlando and ended up having to do, I think it was a month of prowlers on the concrete. Prowlers are like those big sleds with the arms.
Yeah.
We were pushing prowlers, 100-yard prowlers, the length of the stadium on the concrete for missing that workout on the next morning.
It was a sacrifice, but I appreciate you guys made it.
That was an amazing story.
I did that. I mean, it was so great to finish that game and have you guys there with me, have my parents and family members there. That was great. And then I was in Arizona training for the combine. Actually, about 3 miles from where I live now is where I was staying. And when I was coming out of the draft, they said, hey, we're thinking anywhere between third and undrafted. We just don't know. And to put it in perspective, that was Sam Bradford, Tim Tebow, Colt McCoy, a few other guys that were ranked above me or right below me, somewhere right in there. So they were thinking I would be like the fifth to seventh quarterback taken in the draft. And they just said, we want all those guys to go first round, because if they're going first round, then you're going to go higher. So we knew it wasn't going to be a first round or second round. And that was the first year that Thursday was going to be the first round of the draft. Friday was going to be the second and third round. And then Saturday was, I think, the fourth through the seventh round. So we for sure weren't expecting anything on Thursday. We're like Friday, maybe an outside chance. When that round ended and that day closed, it was Saturday of the draft. We're at my uncle's apartment in New York City. All the boys are there, all my family members. My 80-year-old grandfather was there. The mariachi band was there. Yeah, very Mexican Fordham Bronx mixture we had there. Frank Rizzo broke a chair. I'm pretty sure that was that same day. He broke a chair there
Even
at
if
my
it
uncle's
wasn't,
house.
we'll say,
We'll say it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't have to wait long on Saturday, which was good. We get the phone call. Everyone gets really quiet. I kind of go into the other room, and it was someone from the Cardinals. I forget who it was, but he's like, "Hey, we're going to take you with this draft pick coming up soon." I think it was like in 2 picks. And I kind of come off the phone and I mouth to everyone, it's like, "It's the Cardinals." And then everyone just starts cheering, and now I can't hear anything. And then about a minute later, it comes across the TV, and the first one I see is my grandfather, and he's sitting there with tears in his eyes. My grandfather's an immigrant from Mexico. My mom is a first generation Mexican American, and everyone's just crying. Boys are taking tequila shots and all this. And it was fortunate that it was a place that I was familiar with. I had done my training out there. I'd visited Arizona multiple times, and got drafted. It was the 5th round pick for the Arizona Cardinals in the 2010 draft.
That's amazing. It brought chills. A number of those things right there were, some of the best experiences in my life as well. I know you've heard it on this podcast, but going to Fordham and finding my people and you guys that have been there every layer of my life, even going down to celebrate you and your upcoming wedding, this past summer, the stuff we went through with your draft and hanging out at Hov's house and Frank breaking chairs and all that, like those, those are lifetime experiences that, so special.
And now we're all living vicariously through each other's kids, and they're like, "Hey, what's KJ up to?" "Oh, dude, I just saw his flag football, or I saw his lacrosse, and now Ryan Darcy's coaching his kids in football."
Kids are killing it. Cool. Yeah, it is so cool. It is. So Gerard's up next, right? He's got his little quarterback.
His are coming up quick, man.
It's awesome. So let's go back real quick. I want to talk about, because this, one of the most interesting pieces to me, but your pre-combine training out in Arizona. Tell me about that process, because you left campus, kind of January of senior year, right?
Yeah. So when I picked an agent, I went with Neil Schwartz and John Feinsod, 2 Jewish guys from New York, go figure, right? But they were great guys, just on a personal level. My family connected with them. They were great. They go, "We send all of our potential draft picks to Arizona to do training out there." So there's a place called Fisher Sports with Fish. He is currently I think he's head of all training and conditioning and everything. I don't know exactly what his title is with the Lions.
Physical therapy also, yeah.
Yeah. So he's kind of runs everything on the non-football side, and that's the weight room, training room, everything like that. But long story short, I digress. He was out here in Arizona. He worked with a lot of football players and a lot of baseball players. And me being a quarterback, that was great. He started doing some arm strengthening stuff, core stuff, everything that goes along with throwing, really any type of throwing sport. And it was fortunate to go out there. They did the 40 training out here. So the thing about the combine that a lot of people don't know is you're not training for football. You're training for underwear Olympics, and you're training on how to run a 40 and how to do a 3-cone drill. I don't know what I would have ran had I not done any combine training. I would say it would probably be above a 5 flat, but because of going out to Fisher Sports and working with the Sullivan group and stuff like that, I was able to run a 4.85, which I don't think a week after the combine I could have ran a 4.85. It was all training for that 1 or 2 sprints. But that kind of gave me the insight in what it takes to be a professional. And, hey, we're training for this. You're waking up, you're in Arizona, you're 1,000 miles from school. I missed my entire senior spring semester being out there training. And Dean Rapiccioli at Fordham, she goes, "You go, we'll figure it out. We'll give you some remote work. We'll give you some online classes." And I'm forever thankful for that because I was still able to graduate in May along with my classmates. And that whole experience is actually more than likely the reason I still live in Arizona. Is I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the people. It's such an eclectic group. It's almost like no one in Arizona is from Arizona. And you get to know people out here. People are great. You go to any bar and there's people cheering for the Vikings. You go to a bar and there's people cheering for the Giants and whatever it is. And there are people from all over. And I fell in love with it out here, and it's a great place to raise a family.
Yeah, that's amazing. And the fact that you landed at Fisher Sports is always crazy to me because we talk about networking and like all the different links and how you land on different stuff. Brett Fisher's in the world of strength and conditioning, which I'm now fully embedded in, worked in the business for 15 years. He's one of the godfathers. He's one of the football, kind of hybrid physical therapy, sports performance guys. For basketball, there was like Lee Taft. Up in Boston, there was Mike Boyle. There was a track guy named Lawrence Seagrave, who actually started the brand that I purchased, Velocity, back in the day. But Brett was this guy that understood the mesh between treating the body and getting the body to perform better.
Yeah,
So I used to, when you would come back to Fordham from your training down with Brett, you were bringing back these binders, right? Everything was like laminated paper back in 2011 because we're dinosaurs, But you were bringing back these binders, and I kept those. I still have them in my house right now. The fact that you landed at his spot and were able to connect me with him, in the probably 5 years, after we graduated from Fordham, I was talking to all those guys at Fisher Sports because of the connection you made for me. So that was pretty special experience, and the fact that your agent hooked you up with him, the dominoes couldn't have fallen better there.
yeah. And the great thing about Brett and Fisher Sports is it wasn't the glitz and glamour. Everyone's like, "Oh, you're training at Exos or you're doing this," and I'm like, "No, man, I'm in a gym in South Phoenix. Like it's in an old warehouse." But Jared Verlander was there and Matt Scherzer was there. All these pitchers that when he got them, they were nobody, and then all of a sudden they're winning Cy Young awards. He gets all sorts of athletes that come through there. There's golfers that would go through there. There was baseball, football, and the meshing of let's prepare for football and then let's recover from football and let's mesh it all together to make you a better athlete and a more durable athlete was amazing what he did. And I still, to this people, I tell people he invented the ab dolly, and
Yeah, he did.
that's what I first remembered him for. I was like, oh, you invented the ab dolly? That's pretty cool. And you go to any gym, you'll still see the ab dolly, but
For
that was
sure.
only one tool that he had in making everyone a better athlete.
Yeah, so when I bought Velocity, and I guess it was early 2019, one of the fundamental things that I brought to my group of investors, right? So I have a really cool team here. I'm the training guy, but I have another guy that's in coaching and another guy that's in finance and another guy that's in real estate. But when I brought my model to them, part of that model is that we needed to be partnered up with physical therapy facilities. Um, and we now have two facilities that are shared with a clinic called Pro Clinics, sports PT and physical therapy. And I'm in the Fishkill building right now. We have Harrison Physical Therapy upstairs, and that I know that seed, that fundamental in my model, was planted by Brett Fisher. He was definitely the godfather of meshing those two services as an essential piece of athletic performance.
Yeah, no, yeah, and for every hour and a half we spent training, it was probably an hour and a half of recovery that we were doing afterwards. So it all ties in together.
Yeah, that's really cool. Now you're still living out in Arizona. What are you doing now? Are you still involved at all with the Cardinals?
Yeah, so the Cardinals, I think they do a good job as far as NFL team goes, as keeping former players involved, doing stuff like that. So Adam Richmond, he's a great guy with the Cardinals over there. He used to be in charge of the alumni relations. Now he does more community relations. They've gone through a revamp, but they'll do camps that they'll invite former players to go work, or they'll do different events at schools, different prep rallies, stuff like that, golf tournaments. So I would say on an annual basis, I'm probably doing 10 to 15 different events with the Cardinals. And just being involved, being around that is great. Michael Bidwell, the owner of the team, I've ran into him at different events, and he goes out of his way to come say hi and make sure I'm doing all right and everything. I've had people that I just know through the community that are applying for jobs with the Cardinals, and they'll say, "Hey, can you put in a good word?" And it's like, "Well, who are you meeting with?" Like, "Oh, I know that guy. Yeah, let me send an email to him really quick." So, I've fortunate enough where I live about a mile and a half from the practice facility here in Tempe, and there's a lot of people in that building that I'll still run into at the grocery store or at a high school event. I'll see them out there, and they're never players or coaches. It's usually the background people. It's the communications director, or it's the former equipment guy who lives down the street actually from me, and it's people like that that are kind of the salt of the earth people that kind of keep the business running outside of the football world that I run into, and made a lot of connections with those types of people.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I don't know if you and I talked about this much in the past, but my grandfather, before he retired, he was the GM of the Bills. Ultimately landed with the Cardinals following that job, and then retired out there. And he would say the same thing, that just being in that community, everyone, like you said, is from everywhere, but that tie into the Cardinals, they really do a good job with that community.
Yeah, and even I mean the Cardinals only came out here in 1988 when they moved from St. Louis. And there's people that'll be like, "Oh, I remember when Bill Bidwell was thinking about moving the team out here." And I would say up until last year, maybe 2 years ago, there was a guy in the training room that he was like his first 2 years, I think, were with the St. Louis Cardinals, and they moved out here, and he bought a house, and he's been there ever since. And I think just recently he retired. So even the team itself's not from Arizona; they're from St. Louis.
Yeah, that's unreal. That's unreal. And so my grandparents lived in Sun Lakes my entire childhood. So we used to always go out and visit them. And I had one picture of what Phoenix was like based off of my childhood. And then they moved and later passed. But then we came out to visit you for spring break. I think it was 2 years ago, and it's a completely different place now.
It's we get a lot of transplants, a lot of Midwesterners, a lot of people from California trying to avoid high taxes and stuff, and it's still a retirement community. There's places like Sun Lakes where the youngest person living out there is 55, but then you go to other places and it's a young family from Southern California that moved out here, and they're bringing kind of their Southern California low key influence out here. Then you get all the Midwesterners that think Ohio State hung the moon, that come out here and they have their bars and stuff. So it's almost that time now. It's September. I would say, October through March, April. It's all the bachelor parties, boys trips, golf trips, all sorts of stuff like that. And that's when things get expensive for us local people.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Well, I'm already keeping you a little longer than the hour, I promise, but we always like to finish the show with kind of a lighthearted. I have a rapid fire kind of list of questions for you that should spark some good stories. So what's your favorite game in your career that you've played?
I think I would go back to college on this one. We played my sophomore year. We played Holy Cross for essentially what was the championship game for the Patriot League. We were at home. I think it was family weekend or something like that, and we had a sellout crowd. I think we were picked to lose that game because we didn't really have the experience of playing in big games like that the way Holy
Yeah,
Cross did. And
sophomore quarterback wasn't supposed to help us.
yeah, Dominic Randolph was out there. He was, winning Patriot League Player of the Year, stuff like that. But that game, that atmosphere, I mean, I can remember, down to the plays. They just a handoff to Jonte Coven, who took it off the edge for about 40 yards, and then we punched it in. A couple plays later, Cody Kreitzer up the sideline on a little tight end flare, and then James Crockett getting that interception to kind of seal the game, and us win the championship and win the Patriot League, get a spot in the playoffs, go to UMass that we talked about earlier. That was, as far as personal games, as far as team games, as far as memories, that's got to be top. And I played Christmas Day against the Cowboys, and I still take that Holy Cross game over them.
Yeah. And what I just thought of when you were listing off all those Fordham names. One of the things that makes Fordham so special is, if any of our listeners go onto LinkedIn right now and type in those names and see what those guys are doing with their life, right? Crockett and Kreitzer and
Yeah.
Jonty Coven and, me and you, and Fordham's a special place. And the alumni group, I always tell people, I am so pleased to have landed at Fordham, because I don't think a day goes by where I'm not interacting with somebody, referencing Fordham, having gone to Fordham, their uncle, their aunt, their grandfather. Everybody's Fordham people love Fordham people.
Yeah, no, it's and I think, just to take what you said a step further, Jordan, is this world has a lot of problems in it right now. We're not going to get into that stuff. But if everyone had an opportunity to play football at some point, I mean, the eclectic group of people that were in our locker room at Fordham, we had guys from South Florida that I would have to like focus on what they were saying just to understand what they were saying, all the way to, guys from the Northeast that would say "water," and I was like, what word did you just say? I was like, "Water, do you need some water?" And I'm like, what is going on? And guys from the Midwest that, played at these big time high schools in the Midwest that just turn out like national champions, and guys that go to Ohio State, and just that bond that this eclectic group brings together in a college locker room is amazing.
Yeah, it really is. Toughest defender you ever faced?
Huh. So when I was with the Cardinals, we played the Seahawks, the 49ers, and the Rams were our division, the NFC West. And we had some defenses that had some dudes on there. So guys like Patrick Willis at linebacker, Navarro Bowman with that 49ers team, Earl Thomas with Seattle and that secondary, the Legion of Boom, if anyone remembers that. It was almost like if we had a divisional game, it was going to be a dogfight. And so many of those games were 16-10 or, 22-17, just those low scoring, grinded out, every possession matters. Justin Thomas was D tackle for the 49ers. And I remember a distinct play where guard went left, center went right. He was playing that two technique and just comes through untouched. And I go, "Set hut." And as I'm backing out of there, I see no one touched him. And he just picks me up, puts me into the ground, does his little rope thing. And I'm like, God. And he just helps me up and he goes, "It's easy when no one blocks you." And I'm like, no, you're right. And then we get on the sideline, and Darren College, who was the left guard who messed up on that play, he just looks over and goes, "Hey, Skelton, that was on me." I go, "Yes, Darren, I know. Thank you."
I know you didn't play against him, you played with him, but largest human I've ever met was, we were at the
Yes.
it was Cardinals Jets, right? And you had gotten the box and all the boys came out, and Calais Campbell.
Yes.
That must have been terrifying to go
So,
across from him. I don't know if you guys ever went at it in practice, but
so practice. Yeah, you're right. He is 6'8". Yeah, 6'8" or 6'9". Just still playing. He's in year 19 or something like that, back
you're
with the
kidding me.
Cardinals playing. But I remember as a rookie, I get in there, we're doing, rookie mini camp or something like that, and I see him in the weight room as we're getting ready to go out and throw some balls or something. And he just looks at me and goes, "Ooh, I hate quarterbacks. Ooh." And I'm like, "What is this guy? Is scary looking." And then he's playing mind games with rookies, right? He's in his third or fourth year at that point. And come to find out, he's like one of the nicest guys in the world. Like, he's got, I don't know, 9 brothers or something. You get to know all of them, and he's such a nice guy. And for him to still be playing and still be playing at such a high level is amazing.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Unbelievable. What's the best advice you ever received?
I guess I could take this a number of different ways, but I think the biggest thing for me is it was always to stay humble, no matter what was happening around me. Like, I'm getting recruited in high school. I'm having all these opponents that we're playing against call me overrated or say like, you're just because you're big, that's why you're getting recruited. And I had uncles, my dad, just be humble. You know what? Stay grounded, stay down to earth. And it was kind of at every aspect of my life, every different stage that I got to. I was just so proud of getting there and knew that it could be taken away. as quick as I got there, right? So you never know when your last football game is going to be. You never know when that last practice is going to be. Someone said the other day that it's like, man, I remember running the 3-man weave in basketball, going up and down the court. There was the last time that you ran a 3-man weave, and you might not have thought about it at the time. So whatever you're doing, you got to stay humble. I mean, I have a kid on my son's basketball team. He's the best player on the team, and he's the most down to earth kid. His mom played Division I soccer, and they're like, Enzo, you're a good player, but there's other guys out there that are better than you, right? You're not seeing, you're not coming across them, you're not playing, but they're out there, and you got to stay humble. You got to work hard, and I think that's the biggest advice is, kids are getting recruited. These NIL deals are getting ridiculous now. Kids think they're God's gift to earth. Just stay humble, work hard, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's great advice, and I take a lot of pride with my sons in instilling that. And the other day at practice, one of KJ's teammates' dads, I don't know how it came up, but it was one of those comments where you just kind of threw it across, like, you know what, like, for as good as KJ is, like, he's just a really great kid. Like, he's not pointing fingers, and he supports everybody, and like that to me means way more than any accolade that they could potentially win or number of goals that they can score in a game. To have somebody recognize that that my kid is genuinely a good kid, down to earth, stayed humble,
Yeah.
means a lot. The best advice I ever received, and I don't get to talk about this a lot because it was kind of like an awkward scenario, but I'd worked for a guy for a really long time and had a level of loyalty to him that had kind of run its course, and I was really torn over whether it was appropriate to leave or if I should stick it out. And I was talking to this guy who I didn't know that well, but for whatever reason we were having this conversation, and I said to him, I'm like, yeah, but he taught me everything I know. And this guy looked at me and he said, Jordan, you learned everything you know. I will tell that
Yeah.
story for the rest of my life to anybody I ever speak to, because that hit me hard. I made a lot of decisions after that conversation based on off of that thought process. No one can take credit for what you've earned,
No, yeah.
and stay humble, but you learned everything you know.
Yeah, there could have been someone else in that exact same position that you were in that didn't learn anything and didn't want to get better and didn't take the time to become who you are now. That would have had the exact same opportunity. I think that's great advice as well.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so are you a social media guy? Is there somewhere that people can find you and connect with you if they wanted to?
Mostly Instagram, I guess. It's John Skelton at John Skelton 19. It's mostly pictures of my son or something like that playing his sports, but I do get people from time to time reach out and say, "Hey, my son's, going into his freshman year. You have any advice, stuff like that?" So if people reach out, I'd be happy to talk with them. I
You're a
think
small business owner also. You're on LinkedIn?
yeah, I'm on LinkedIn as well. Yeah, John Skelton. I used to be senior helpers. We used to do non-medical in-home care, but actually sold that company.
Oh, congrats,
So
man.
yeah, it's been good. I'm joking right now with my fiance. We're getting married in a week, or I don't know when this will air, but September 29th we're getting married, and she's a teacher and she's the breadwinner right now because I'm not working. I'm in between stuff, focused on the wedding, stuff like that.
Yeah, but you just finished up just this past spring, right? The Fordham MBA program.
Yeah, great program. So one of my undergrad teachers, Francis Petit, he taught a sports marketing class at Fordham. It was one of those Wednesday night 3.5 hour classes that no one really wanted to go to because it was so late. We didn't get done till about 9:30. But he was a great sports marketing teacher. He came from that world, and he reached out to me on LinkedIn probably about 2 years ago and said, "Hey, I'm now the dean of the EMBA program at Fordham. It's a 22-week program, once a month in person, back here in New York at the Lincoln Center campus." And he goes, "We'd love to have you." And one of the best things about getting vested and playing as long as I did in the NFL, 4 years credited, is they will pay for your education, ongoing education. So I got the NFL to split the bill to go get my EMBA program at Fordham with Francis Petit, great cohort that we went along with. And this past May, the capstone trip we did, we went to Santiago, Chile. And to this day, one of my favorite jokes is, "Oh, you went to Fordham? That's like a good school, right?" And I go, I only got in because of football. Like I keep tricking them. They asked me back for an MBA, and I'm like, all right, you guys sure? Like, yeah, I'll go.
Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes. All right, John. I appreciate you, man. This is one of my favorite episodes, and I'll talk to you later, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to the Hoffman Hero guys from Fordham, man.
There we go. I think we named them all at some point in this episode.
Absolutely. Intensity with integrity.
And that was the Better Athletes Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like, subscribe, and share. We will be back with another great guest. But until then, remember, if it were easy, everyone would do it.